Hi everyone, welcome to our live investment summit today with Oriole Resources, hosted by Six. Today we're going to be focusing on Cameroon, preparing for maiden drilling at Bibemi Gold Project. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today. We've got Tim Livesey, Chief Executive Officer, and we also have on the line Bob Speeton, Chief Financial Officer, and Claire Bay, VP Exploration and Business Development. Tim's going to kick things off by walking us through a company presentation, and then we will be welcoming back all of our speakers to answer your questions live. As a reminder, you can always submit your questions at any point during the presentation using the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Today's presentation can also be downloaded in Handouts tab if you'd like to follow along. And as always, we are recording this webinar so that you can watch it again on six.com. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tim.
Thanks very much, Jay. Well, good afternoon or good morning to everybody. I'm just going to run through our latest summary on Cameroon. We had one on Senegal a couple of weeks ago, led by Claire Bay, and today we're going to focus on Cameroon, where we have our own exploration activities underway. The company, for those of you who don't know Oriole or are reasonably new to Oriole, we have a management and board with pretty deep experience in the resources sector, specifically in gold in West Africa. It's one of our areas of expertise, as well as generally base metals and gold, precious metals and gold in Europe and throughout Africa. Today I've got Bob and Claire on the line with me, and they may jump in at the end in the Q&A session if there's anything that needs their attention. So Oriole, we have a real focus on Africa. We have two key areas. Based in Senegal, we have the Senala license, which Claire talked about a few weeks ago, and I believe that that presentation is still available as a recording for you to watch if you didn't see it. And we have a position in Cameroon where we've been operating now for, well, we're coming in at about 2.5 years in our middle of our third year in Cameroon. In Senegal, we're partnered with IAMGOLD, so we don't actually operate the exploration project in Senegal. IAMGOLD are operators there, and we are sort of free carried through that. Whereas in Cameroon, we are the owner operators on the licenses in Bibemi and Wapuzi. So why Cameroon? Well, we got involved a few years ago. I had some experience in Cameroon from a previous company that I was with, Reservoir Minerals, and Cameroon has really been developing its focus on the mining sector in the last decade. Prior to that, a lot of the value coming in was the extractives in Cameroon was focused on oil and gas offshore from Douala, and it's got a pretty active timber industry as well as obviously tourism. But mining, in particular gold mining, has been something that they've been developing their support for with help from a World Bank sponsored program called Precassim. This was kicked off around about 6 years ago. It's currently in phase 2. And Precassim is there's about $25 million coming in from the World Bank to support Cameroon in developing their extractives industry. So they've had assistance by the Finnish Geological Survey to develop their mining laws and their licensing and permitting systems. They have now developed a live cadastre system on the web, for example. And from the French Geological Survey, BRGM, who are world-renowned experts in West African geology and previously did a lot of work in West Africa over the last 30 or 40 years, they've come in to review and revise their prospectivity analysis in Cameroon itself. Cameroon offers an opportunity for groups like us to come in at this early stage and to pick up good land packages, good land positions in areas that have previously been overlooked. If we reference back to Senegal and Mali, for example, where we all know there's a thriving mining industry, they went through the same process as this 20 years ago with Precassim style work, prospectivity style work carried out by BRGM, development of the mining laws, and a positive attraction to outside investment. So that's exactly what Cameroon's doing now, and that's exactly where we are very interested in coming in on it. It's got a new mining code published in 2016, and it's very proactive in attracting investment into the mining sector. Now, Cameroon's geologically, it's really well suited for Archean-style gold, orogenic gold systems. But in the center of this image, you'll see what is marked up CCSZ. This is the Central Cameroon Shear Zone. And this is a significant deep crustal structure which runs between the West African and Saharan megacraton and the Congo craton. And this creates a kind of a mobile belt area between these two big cratons. And this really deep-seated structure is emplaced in that is Archean rocks, Neoproterozoic, with a very similar sort of chemistry and setting to what we know of as the Bibemi rocks over in West Africa, more typically hosting gold deposits in Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, for example. So the deposits that we are looking for are associated with the orogenic gold systems associated with the shear zones, and in particular the splays off the central Cameroonian shear zone. We have two licenses in the north, Wapuzi and Bibemi, as you can see on this image, and we have a package of licenses under application in the center, closer down to the junction point between the TB shear zone and the Central Cameroonian shear zone. So we've got extensive targeting experience here. There we go. We have, we believe, a strong first mover advantage at Bibemi and Wapuzi. These licenses have been held by our partner, and prior to that by Reservoir Minerals Cameroon. And of the 140 or so known occurrences in Cameroon, most of the ones that are currently actively being mined are over on the east of the country. Typically alluvial gold mining carried out along the border to the east, way to the east of our target areas. What we are looking for at Bibemi and Wapuzi and in the central Cameroon area in our new target applications are the hosts of that gold, the original orogenic type systems that host the gold, which we are seeing come out in those alluvial deposits further to the east. So we've got these deep crustal structures. We've got the regional shear fabrics that are giving us the opportunity for rotational structures that are opening up and creating dilation zones for mineralization to come in. And we've got the known presence of gold mineralization. You know, there is a history of gold mining, artisanal activity, and more recently, activity on the alluvials through Cameroon. And in addition to that, Cameroon, of course, as a typical African mobile belt type system, hosts other deposits as well. We see nickel copper, we see iron ore in the south. You know, there's various other targets in Cameroon. Now, we believe the first mover advantage is really tied into our projects up at Bibemi and Wapuzi. Bibemi is slightly more advanced of the two licenses. We've done a reasonable amount of work there on the back of the work that was done by Reservoir. Wapuzi is a little bit more delayed. We haven't done any trenching work there. But at Bibemi, we came in originally with quite an extensive rock chip program, sampling over 400 rock chip samples through the area. And we followed that up with a trenching program. And those results really came in and gave us some quite spectacular grades, and also helped us to define quite an extensive central mineralized trend, which we call the Bakassi zone. Now, previously, Reservoir Minerals had identified over 20 kilometers of anomalous gold in the Bibemi license. We focused in this central Bakassi zone because we believe this is where the the best opportunity is for higher grade mineralization. And on the images here, you can see on the right, two zones of mineralization, zone 1 and zone 2, very imaginatively named, but stretching over 5 kilometers along this trend. And you can see in here combined results, rock chip sampling, which is typically in the white boxes, and then also trench sampling. The trenches are perpendicular to the main trend, and you can see some of the better results identified along that. And we've got mineralization in both zone 1 and zone 2. And the original rock chip sampling gave us some really pretty spectacular results, you know, multiple ounces. Our highest intersection, 135.4 grams a ton in rock chip, and our widest trench sample, 9 meters at 3.14. So we know that there is you know, a reasonably good amount of gold in the system. And we're quite comfortable with that, with the system being a gold system. But what we've been doing on the back of that is now planning the next phase, which is obviously taking what we're seeing on surface into the third dimension. Now, what we see in these vein systems, we identified 4 different, very classically identifiable vein sets, 2 of which are mineralized, 2 of which are not mineralized. That was picked up in the early mapping that our team did 2 years ago. And what we've been doing since then with the trenching work and with the structural interpretation is trying to identify areas within this Bakassi zone, this central zone, where there might be opportunities for dilation to give us a larger volume opportunities. Obviously, it's great to have high-grade gold, and it's great to be able to consistently revisit areas if you have to, and resample and consistently get high-grade gold. But the reality is that to go from an interesting gold prospect to something that could potentially give you a resource and ultimately a mine, you need to look at some volume. So we've been identifying areas of structural control, and we've identified some areas where we're seeing that the main trend here is quite a subvertical to vertical vein sets, but we have been seeing zones of stacked veins. And these are really important because these give us an indication that the structural regime has been one which has allowed the pressure to release, and it's allowed the host rocks to open up, dilate, and for those ore-bearing, mineral-bearing fluids that are flowing through these structures, for them to drop out their minerals out of solution and create deposits. And on the back of that, we initially planned a program of 20 diamond holes in this area, and initially targeting obviously the best grades and those stacked vein systems. Now, there's a couple of images here just to give you an idea. The image on the left is what you typically see from surface, is these quartz veins sticking out of the ground. We've got a dip and a plunge to them. We'll be defining the plunge of intersection between these veins. That's where you're going to get the most volume of gold. We'll be working on that with our angle drilling to prove up the verticality of the system and to identify that shear fabric and to really try and get that third dimension. But what we're seeing on the right-hand image here are these sub-horizontal stacked vein systems. And you can see, if you compare the two images, that the image on the right is obviously going to give you a lot more possibility for bulk tonnage of gold mineralization. And this is really what we're looking to define with our initial drill program. We've got we know we've got the right host rocks. We know we've got mineralized systems. We know these deep tapping structures are carrying gold. We see ample evidence of that in our rock chip sample programs to date. So we're very enthusiastic to have been continuously finding more and more of these stacked vein systems. And to that extent, we've identified recently 2 new areas along strike from Zone 1 and Zone 2, effectively to the southwest along strike of both zones. So still within that central Bakassi zone, but ultimately extending from just over 5 kilometers to now just over 8 kilometers, the trend on surface. With the recent sampling program that was done just last month, came back with results, a number of results in excess of a gram. We took just under 50 samples, and 6 of those came back in excess of 1 gram a ton gold. And the better results, 11.68 grams a ton and 22.38 grams a ton. Now, the key thing for these is not just necessarily the grade, but also the fact that these are coming from vein systems that indicate the possibility of stacked veins in those lower west and lower east areas. So we've extended the target zone. We've confirmed that the gold mineralization continues, and we're seeing, interestingly, in both lower west and lower east, a higher prevalence of these sub-horizontal stacked vein systems. And it's perhaps not unsurprising, because what we're doing here is as we come down along the trend here, we're starting to get close to the boundary of a granitic intrusive. And it could be, and it's quite often the case, where this type of system, the granitic intrusives, creates a structural regime change. And this is where you have the opportunity for those systems to open up and give you more volume. So we're very enthused by that. We have a couple of areas, the west prospects in the image on the left-hand side of the screen here, and the east prospects in the image on the right-hand side. In the west, this is effectively an extension of Zone 1. We've seen vein sets up to sort of 1.3 meters wide. In the lower east, we've seen much more continuous veining with wider sets of small vein systems. But most importantly, in the east, we're also seeing gold mineralization in the mafic host rocks. Now, this is again really important from a volume point of view. I'll repeat, it's great to find gold in the vein systems, and we can identify them, we predict where we're going to find it, and we sample it and we find it. And the grades are good, 20 grams plus in a lot of cases. However, we need volume. And to identify disseminated mineralization going out into these mafic host rocks and associated with the veins, these stacked vein systems, means we've identified an area where we could have potential for a volumetric increase in the gold quantity. And obviously these areas are going to be included into our upcoming drilling program. We have had a slight delay, COVID-related impact on the shipping, a couple of weeks delay to the shipping, but we are still expecting the drilling equipment to be out in country this month, and we're still on track for the program starting in January. So Capital Drilling have mobilized a rig out, and we took that initial sort of 17 to 20 holes we initially planned. We now have 28 holes pegged with the collars identified. And the idea is that in the majority of these cases, we're drilling multiple holes in a scissor fashion across these systems to try to identify volume at depth. The image on the left here just gives you a schematic of that. We have an area above trench BT005 where we had several intersections of mineralized vein swarms in the trench, and we've been able to predict the vertical dip and plunge, and the idea is to chase that down with 2 holes drilling from east to west, 1 hole drilling from west to east, and to be able to tie that together into to give us a third dimension on that. So it's a very typical orogenic gold drilling program, and we'll also, because we're diamond drilling, we'll also be able to get a lot of value structural information, which will be very valuable from that work. So Bibemi maiden drill program, we've never drilled here before, nobody's ever drilled here before, but we have We've identified high-grade gold. We've tied the gold into specific vein systems. We've identified mineralization in the mafic host rocks, disseminated mineralization. We've identified stacked vein systems, giving us the opportunity for volume. And we've extended the initial Bakassi zone core from 5 kilometers to over 8 kilometers now, with zone 1 and zone 2, lower west and lower east. So we're very excited about this, obviously, and we're very, very keen to get those drills, get the drill holes in. And you know, you can be assured that we'll be giving you feedback on those as soon as we get results coming out. So Bibemi, you know, we're happy with that. That's all on track. Wapuzi is just north of Bibemi. It's about 20 kilometers. The license is about 20 kilometers north of Bibemi. And again, we have gold mineralization identified. Now, I mentioned before that Bibemi was slightly more advanced in exploration. Here at Wapuzi, we did a more extensive soil sampling program, and we have identified 13 kilometers of anomalous gold in soils. Importantly, again, in the southern end here, we see at the end of the southwest end of the longer trend, we see 2 parallel trends of mineralization, 2.8 kilometers and 2.2 kilometers long. And again, this is an area where we have consistent gold, and this is coming up against another of these granitic intrusives. So structurally, it's giving us a great location for the deposition of gold and volumetric increase in gold. We've got some fantastic results from the soils. We've done a little bit of rock chip work, but the pause, the couple of week delay in the arrival of the drill rig is allowing us to get in here and to carry out a small trenching program. So we're going to put 2 pilot trenches in this southern area where the best surface intersections from soils have been. And subject to the results of those trenches and subject to the availability of the rig at the end of the Bibemi program, we would like to think we can get in here and perhaps drop a couple of holes into the Wapuzi license as well. It should, time-wise, we should have plenty of time within the season to do that. And Bibemi is fully funded. We did a raise in September, so we have money in the bank to complete funding for the Bibemi program and for this early program at Wapuzi. So we're very comfortable here that Wapuzi could give us very similar results to Bibemi ultimately. And not surprising, it's part of the same shear system, it's the same host rocks, and it's just 20 kilometers along strike. So it would not be a surprise if we had a very similar systems here at Wapuzi to what we're seeing at Bibemi. So those are the 2 sort of active licenses that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and we're now in a position to drill test. In central Cameroon, we have a contiguous land package of 8 licenses under application. Now, this is one of the big positives of Cameroon right now, is the ability to come in and based on some good geological and interpretation and thinking, generative work we did back in the summer of 2019, we identified a number of areas in Cameroon that were just ripe for gold potential, and we ranked them, and the rank 1 and 2 areas came up as this block in central Cameroon. The licenses were open, the ground was open, so we've been able to put the applications in. The applications are just pending final signature and the delivery of what they call the arrêté for us to be allowed to carry on or to start work there. And this area is structurally, it's part of that same splay from Bibemi and Wapuzi. It's a splay off the central Cameroon shear zone that's carrying gold all the way along it, the Choliri-Bagno shear zone. And again, it's this focus on a deep crustal structure with Archean type rocks, mafics present, and the existence of gold anomalism. There's artisanal activity, historical artisanal activity in this area, if you look at the maps from the 1970s. So we know that, that this is an area of interest. and we are outside of any areas of forest reserve. This is when we put the applications in. This is open ground and very accessible in the centre of Cameroon. So we're very eager to get moving on this. But this is one of the advantages of being a first mover in a place like Cameroon, is the opportunity to spot target areas like this and to be able to put those applications in. We're basically southwest along trend from Bibemi Wapuzi, so obviously much earlier stage work here. We'll continue the drill program at Bibemi, and we'll develop that up into Wapuzi. And the idea here is that we'll start off by doing a very simple stream sediment program. Here we have these black dots are just identification of stream sediment locations that we would like to sample to be able to cover each one of these licenses by the first pass of exploration geology, stream sediment sampling to follow up, try and identify gold mineralization, and then follow it back upstream to find out the origin. So this is around about 1,300 stream sediment samples planned. We would like to be able to get in here this dry season, subject to the delivery of the arrêtés. And the idea is what we're trying to do here is build a pipeline within the projects in Cameroon, where we have obviously Bibemi is the most advanced at the moment with drill targeting and drill testing. Wapuzi slightly behind that, and then obviously this central license package, right at the beginning of the exploration process. Now, the ability to get a license package as large as this is unusual. You wouldn't be able to pick up something like this in the more active areas of Western Africa at the moment, because the ground's just taken. So this is part of this advantage. We've committed a lot of money into Cameroon, a lot of time, a lot of effort. The team's been there for nearly 3 years now. And the advantage comes in being able to identify and license these kind of areas. So we're very enthusiastic about that central package, and we look forward to following up on work on that. I met with the minister while I was in Cameroon last month, and we updated him on our programs at Bibemi and Wapuzi, and also on this central package, which is just waiting final approval. So expected news flow over the next 6 months. Well, obviously Bibemi, the drill equipment is en route. We already have the local management team for Capital Drilling are already in country. There's a picture of them here in the top image, the two gentlemen on the left, Envy and Franz. They're already on site. They're looking at all the ancillary support equipment and training of local people, local teams, upskilling them to support the drilling program. And that this couple of weeks delay in the arrival of the equipment actually allows them the ability to get really settled in and be ready to hit the ground running when the rig arrives. At Wapuzi, as I mentioned, we'll do a couple of trenches, pilot trenches across those prospective areas in the south, and we will obviously follow up on that with some drilling if the target's warranted. And the central licenses, we can immediately trigger some desktop remote sensing work once the licenses are granted. Obviously, we're not going to spend any money on them until the final arrêtés are in our hands. But as soon as that's done, it's very simple. There's a lot of data available, satellite data, type data, remote sensing data available in the public domain. So we'll do some initial targeting with that, and then we'll get teams on the ground to follow up with stream sediment sampling and identifying follow-up targets for the end of this dry season, or perhaps the beginning of the next one. And the image on the bottom here is Rowan Laxton, the High Commissioner for the UK, with Abdul Mboji, our West African manager, up at the Bibemi site. He popped up for a visit last month, the end of last month, as part of his trip up to that area under the British High Commission. So quite a lot happening. Critically, we have reached our 51% ownership. This is Bibemi and Wapuzi are part of an earn-in deal. We've reached that 51% point. And at the completion of the drilling program, the expenditure commitment, we will have reached the 90% ownership on those projects. So we're very keen to be sharing this with you, and we hope that you'll see some interesting results, hopefully some very positive results come out of the program over the next 6 months. And if we fast forward to our plans for next summer, we hope to be planning a much bigger program based on positive results coming out of this Maiden drill program. As I mentioned, the program, this presentation, as Jane mentioned, this presentation will go live it will be recorded and after this live session and be available for you to watch again. And I'll just hand back now to Jane, and I believe we are going to go into a bit of a Q&A session.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Tim. As a reminder to everyone in the audience, we do have Bob and Claire on the line as well to answer any of your questions, so feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A tab and direct it to them. We did have quite a few questions coming through a live audience as well as through our email channel, so let's hop to it. I had a couple questions here, all of them asking about the 8 new exploration licenses in Cameroon. When will we know the results to our application?
Very good question, and I'm afraid one that I can't answer. The application has been quite a while in coming. The application went in September last year, and they're logged on the system. They're on the cadastre system. Taxes have been paid. We believe approvals have gone all the way through right up to the presidential level, and it's come back and now sits with the ministry. So it's final approval stage with the ministry. They could literally happen any day. As I mentioned, I met with the minister when I was out last month, and we've had no indication that there's any issues. Nobody's flagged any problems with our applications. Taxes have been paid. So it's just a matter of time. It is frustrating that they are delayed, but this is a new system for Cameroon. It's a new licensing system. The cadastre system is new. So they're getting their heads around it. And also, I hate to use the old COVID pandemic, but it has had an impact on all of the administrative matters, not only here in the UK, but also in all the other parts of the world as well. And Cameroon is not isolated from that. So we would hope to see some results early in the new year. When I met with the minister, he was very enthused about the program at Bibemi and Wapuzi. And again, we seem to be one of the few companies that are really active in Cameroon. So all indications are that those licenses will be approved very soon, and we'll be letting you know by RNS as soon as we have that final approval.
Great, thank you very much, Tim. Can you also talk a little bit more about how your meetings went in Cameroon and what you think is the strength of your relationships and reputations on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think our reputation is very, very good. The ministry were very vocal on what they consider to be speculators. They're not very keen on speculation. They are very keen on people who will come in and will invest in the licenses, will progress them, will do work. And also, they were very enthusiastic about the programs that we have in place for training and development, skills development in the local communities. We are employing, we have one Senegalese geologist who's running the program here. Everybody else is local. All of our support, supplies, the camp infrastructure that's being built, the logistics, transport, all of that is localized investment. Capital Drilling, who have a fantastic reputation in Africa in investing in the local communities and training the local people, developing skills, developing safety culture. Capital Drilling they have 2 people that are coming in as experts, and everybody else will be locally sourced and trained up. So the ministry was very, very pleased to hear that. And it really reflects what the ministry is trying to do. They're trying to develop a mining industry. And the first step of that is developing the exploration industry, opening the door to small companies like us to come in identify good areas, de-risk those projects for the larger groups to then come in after us and ultimately develop the mining sector. So the meetings were very good. Obviously met with the minister and a couple of other people in the government there. And our local partner's very well connected. He gives a lot of support to the BRGM program, the precasm program. The logistics support for that is also provided by our partner, who has a geological services consultancy business. So we are. I would like to think that we are well respected, and our investment and our skills are appreciated by the ministry. Certainly, that's the impression I got leaving the meeting this time around.
That's great. It sounds like you have a strong relationship. So to that end, David would like to know, do you already have additional meetings set up and plans to go back to Cameroon in the new year again?
Yeah, we're obviously, I'm very keen to get back out there once the drill program has started to move. There's no point in a bunch of us going out there and sitting around whilst they're drilling the first hole. Abdul Mboji, our West African manager, is an extremely capable geologist. So, once we have 2 or 3 holes in the ground, and once we're starting to see results coming out, then the plan would be to go out and have a visit to follow up on that, see how the program's going. And also, it would give us allow us an opportunity to perhaps host the minister. He was extremely keen to come up and see the program. So we would look to try to plan something around that as well. So at the moment, I'm guessing probably sometime in February for that. The program kicking off in January. The holes are quite short. They'll be quite quick to complete. But we do need to have 2 or 3 of them down before it's worthwhile us going out and collectively bringing the rest of our geological technical team skills out there to sit and go through the core with Abdul and the team on site. So yes, we'll be going out again. I'll be going out again soon as possible.
Great, thank you very much, team. Switching gears a little bit, the next question is for Claire. Michael asks, are there any past or present artisanal workings at Bibemi, Wapuzi, or the new central application?
There are some artisanal workings at Bibemi. They've been identified from a long time back. And in the central license application, there's also historical evidence of artisanal workings. Typically, so unlike a lot of West Africa, we don't have a big lateritic cover developed here. So if you have a vein system with associated gold, it sticks out of the ground. It's not covered by a blanket of lateritic cover. So it makes exploration easier. It also makes it easier for the artisanals to identify that. But it is hard rock geology. And the reality is that it's much easier for the artisanals to go to the east of the country, where you have the opportunity to do alluvial gold mining in the rivers. And it's simply a matter of scooping up the gravels and panning the fines for nugget gold. So what we've noticed is that that's really taken the focus of the artisanal activity in the gold mining sector. But yes, there is evidence of artisanal work, but typically the workings are quite small. They don't go down very deep. Pits of perhaps 3 to 5 meters in places, but certainly not the very extensive artisanal type systems that you will be used to seeing on images from West Africa, where you can have 2,000 people working an area and putting stopes down a couple of 100 meters. It's very, very light touch in central Cameroon and in the northern targets. It's all the artisanal work's really focused on those rivers in the east.
Claire, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that was perfect. I was going to discuss the lack of lateritic cover and saprolitic profile as well. So yeah.
All right. Our next question, I believe, is for Bob. Nathan asks, why? Oh, sorry. The company has recently raised £2 million at a low share price to drill in Cameroon. Moving forward, how much more money is needed in Cameroon to deliver upside? And do you feel that the introduction of a well-heeled JV partner would ultimately benefit shareholders and avoid more equity dilution in the future?
Yeah, thanks, Jane. I mean, that's a great question that we consider frequently at the board. I mean, the question to dilute at the company level or to dilute at the project level, and the answer is always, try and keep engaged with those big groups that Nathan talks about, who could potentially come in as a strategic JV partner. Try and keep engaged with those guys and see what sort of deals are available from them. So as Tim mentioned, our large Cameroonian land package would be attractive to one of those guys as a potential regional scale play. We would like to think we'd do some work on it first. It gives us some chance to add more value to it before entering into a deal. But in terms of diluting at the region, at the project level or the company level, it very much depends on what deal is available at that regional level. So we would tend to look at that first before deciding whether it was more appropriate to raise money at Topco. These things are always a bit of a balancing act, and looking at through a number of questions, there's a range of views among shareholders about how we should do that.
Great, thank you very much, Bob. Talking about maximizing shareholder value, Keaton would like to know, what's Oriole's long-term strategy of maximizing shareholder value on Senala?
I'll take that one. So Senala has a number of targets on it. The most advanced, the area that was most advanced by our team was the Fare area in the north, which is where IAMGOLD are drilling right now. They're just completing an air core program, 10,000 meters air core program, and they'll be doing some RC and diamond in the new year. So there's a number of targets within the license. It's a very large footprint license, over 470 square kilometers. So there's multiple opportunities for discovery, both in the south, the possibility to add satellite feed to the Boto area, the Boto mine development project of IAMGOLD, and in the north, somewhere like Fare, we potentially a standalone deposit. How do we get the value out of that? Well, at the moment, IAMGOLD are earning in to a maximum 70% position. So we ultimately will end up as the minority partner. And at the point of them reaching that 70%, they obviously have a strategic decision to make whether they want to continue with any of the work any of the targets they've identified. And if not, then we have the opportunity to take those on. We've seen significant value enhancement to a lot of the licenses around Senala in Senegal. A lot of the junior companies have had massive increases in share price based on intersections that are very, very similar to what we see at Fare already, that we drilled 5 years ago. So we see a value add there, an as yet untapped value add just from what we've already got in the ground. Ultimately, if any of these projects go to a mining stage, we have the opportunity to either contribute and be a partner in that, or we have the opportunity to sell our stake in it and effectively take the money, the uplift we can get from Senala, and utilize that elsewhere in the company. It really depends on where we are with Cameroon, where we are with potential other ventures at that point. But our stated goal, our stated focus when the new management team and board came in sort of 3 years ago now, was to get back to increasing value by early stage exploration and development of resources, rather than more advanced projects. It's not that we're not looking at more advanced projects, or that we wouldn't consider them, but that was our short-term goal, based on the fact that it's typically much cheaper to get in at that level and to add value at that level. As soon as you start getting towards development projects, they're more expensive to earn in on. to buy, and typically there's a lot more risk associated with them when you start permitting and developing construction development. So yeah, I think the typical junior model at the moment: project generation, identify new areas, new frontiers like Cameroon, exploration success, development of resources, and then let's see where we get to with our discussion with potential partners and project sales or ultimately value enhancement within the company.
Great, thanks, Tim. Ken, can I ask, obviously we talked about good government relations that are existing in Cameroon, but can you also touch on social acceptance with the local people in the area to allow mining operations in the future?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can only speak for the north, where we've been active now for 2.5 years. But previous to our engagement at Bibemi and Wapuzi, Reservoir Minerals, where I was the COO, operated on those licenses. So we have had exposure in that area. I've had exposure in that area for 5 or 6 years now. The local communities are very supportive. For them, it's an opportunity. It's quite a how can I say? It's quite an undeveloped area of Cameroon. Apart from essential basic subsistence farming, there's not a lot of activity in the area. So the possibility of employment through support, employment and support opportunities to our project team and our project, there's a wealth generation fact there. Also, skills development. Mining is a very simple. It's a very simple process, and it requires if you look at a mining life cycle, apart from a couple of very, very specialized roles, a lot of the basic requirements are very transferable skills: drivers, mechanics, electricians, boilermakers, carpenters, surveyors. There's a lot of basic skills. I would say the majority, probably 80% or 90% of employees in a typical mining operation are people with existing skills that are transferable from construction, civil engineering, basic industries. And this is I'm just going into my 31st year of working in exploration and mining, and most that started in Africa in 1989, and predominantly it's been African and Middle Eastern focused. It's no different in Cameroon to any of the other places I've worked. People want opportunity. They want the opportunity to work. They want the opportunity to learn, to enhance their own skills, and to provide opportunities for their kids, their families, their in-laws. And I think that's what mining provides, exploration and mining provides in all of these remote areas. Bibemi and Wapuzi is no different. Oriole is no different. We have approached this with a real focus on developing the community spirit and developing the links with the community. It is the acceptance by the community is a critical piece in any work where you're going into somebody's backyard to dig a hole. I'm sure it's just exactly the same in Canada. It's exactly the same in the UK. You have to build that relationship and educate people to what you're doing to really get them on board. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from David. David asks, we haven't had any update on the non-core assets realization and sales, in particular Turkey. Can we expect a company update on these anytime soon?
Yeah, I'll take that if you want to.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. We've been working through the non-core assets. We stated this about a year ago and quickly moved to a potential multi-royalty portfolio style deal where we would dispose of the basket of Turkish royalties. And in the end, the rights of first refusal that our Turkish partners all possessed kind of made that deal go away. Two people exercised their rights of first refusal, and the main asset, the Muradea copper gold porphyry system, whilst in our view very attractively priced at that time, it didn't meet the buyer's requirement for a kind of portfolio deal. They wanted to, not put all their eggs in one basket on one non-producing asset. So whilst that deal went away, the whole process took quite a while, and during that time, Lodos, the operational partner, have been moving towards EIA approval on Muradea, which is quite a significant value step. Should they get EIA approval, then they're sort of, a big step towards becoming a producing mine. And of course, that's a big step up in the value of our royalty. The value of our royalty is the projected cash flow times the risk of it never happening. So once they get EIA, the risk of it never happening drops significantly, big step in value. So what looked like a good and attractive deal 10 months ago, I don't think we would countenance at this particular moment in time, given the progress we know that has been made. I mean, they haven't got EIA approval, but they are working towards it very diligently, and we believe ultimately will be successful. So we continue to look at ways of realizing money out of the non-core assets, but there are moments in that journey where you're best off pausing and waiting for that value step to occur. And certainly I think on Muradea that is the case. Obviously that's not the only non-core asset, and we continue to talk to parties about potential other disposals or other realizations. Obviously we've got 2 court cases pending in Turkey to realize up to $1.4 million. And that is something we push along all the time, but we are, at the mercy of the Turkish legal system, which was moving slowly before COVID, and seems to, COVID has not improved it, shall we say. But we're pushing ahead on that sort of stuff. And then we've had a number of tentative offers around some of the other assets in the portfolio. But our view of these is, quite often I think people assume 2020, because of all the economic problems. People assume it's a buyer's market, and so therefore you get some offers which are quite frankly derisory for the quality of the asset that we've got. And if it's an offer that we don't believe would enhance the value of the company by providing money for drilling, for example, then we would turn that offer down. And there's been a few of those sort of opportunistic buyer's market type offers, and we'll continue to look at realizing the assets, but we've got our own views of the value of them and our own views of different ways of realizing that value. So it's a program that hasn't gone away, but we can only announce things as they happen. And at the moment, there's no pending deals on that.
If I could just add to that, what is giving us the ability and the willingness to pause on some of these deals and wait for that value add to come through is the fact that our Turkish team have consistently been self-generating revenue. So we're not carrying an overhead for the small team that we have that's managing a lot of those assets for us. They've actually been financially kind of cash positive, or Bob can correct my non-accounting terms, but they're not costing us anything. So if the opportunity is there to hang on for another couple of months and realize more value, and whilst waiting for that, it's not costing us anything in G&A, then the obvious thing to do is wait. And in addition to that, we do continue to chase after other revenue streams, not least of which, the ongoing HMRC research and development tax credits, which is, it's an annual thing. And the more work we do, the more opportunity we have to recover research and development tax credits. So whilst 2020 will probably be quite a quiet year for that, there'll be some revenue to come back from that. obviously the programs that we're putting in now give us the opportunity to do a bigger claim in the next financial year. So there's a lot of activity going on, and as Bob says, it's although 2020 has been a bit chaotic for a lot of industries and a lot of businesses, the reality is that we are still in a very, very strong position here. We're not really suffering from that, other than the ability to physically travel as frequently as we would like to some of these places. Apart from that, we're continuing to maintain a very low overhead cost for the company, greatly reduced on previous teams. And we're continuing to look at every opportunity, but the idea is to maximize the value, not just to dispatch these projects off to the first bidder. We want to make sure we're getting a realistic value for it to return that money back, and prevent us or reduce the amount of future dilution from future raises.
Thanks, Tim and Bob. Our next question is about drills. Why are drill arrival times extended yet again? And has Oriole considered buying and manning its own drills and crew? Few companies have done this and experienced great improvements in cost, responsiveness, and quality. What are your thoughts on that?
So the delays that we've had have been related directly to shipping times. There's not, if you miss a shipping window and the ship sails, there isn't another one in port waiting to go 12 hours later on the next tide. So a slight delay can have a knock-on effect, because the next boat might be 7 days away before you can load up. That's unfortunate. It's out of our control. It's out of capital's control. So it's just one of those things. And people have noted that it's been worse in the last 6 months, most likely because of COVID. But that's doing business in remote areas. That's the deal you have. The idea of owner operating rigs. Well, first of all, it wouldn't be any faster, because we'd still need to bring a rig into Cameroon. There's no equipment in Cameroon suitable to do the work we need to do. So it wouldn't speed things up. In my experience, and I've run a lot of drill programs, and at one stage, my role, I was a senior director in Barrick Gold, and I set up and managed Barrick Gold's global drill support and technical team. We were running about 99 exploration drill rigs around the world every single month, and 29 operating mines. We looked at every opportunity to maximize value from drilling concerns, and the reality is that the best opportunity you have is to find a good, respectable, reliable contractor, and to leave the expert work of drilling to them. The idea of purchasing your own rigs, manning them, and operating them is fraught with many issues, and I could talk about it for the next 2 hours. But in summary, for us at our stage, it would be a lot of capital commitment into equipment that we would be using in the short term. And a little bit like an aeroplane, a drill rig makes you money when it's turning. An aeroplane makes you money when it's in the sky. It doesn't make you any money when it's sitting on the ground. Similarly with the drill rig. So we are very fortunate that we have a great relationship with Capital Drilling. They're very willing to effectively put a rig out of circulation. They could be drilling, the rig that they're sending over to us has come out of Mali. That could be drilling 24/7 and could have been doing that for the last couple of months. And they committed to providing that rig to us. They've given us very good rates. They've given us very good terms on the mobilization. So for us, it's the most cost-effective way to do it. And we share the risk with Capital Drilling, or rather, they chose to share the risk with us, which I think is a reflection on their faith in the management team at Oriole.
Well, thank you very much, Tim, Bob, and Claire for your time with us today. Unfortunately, I do believe that brings us to the end of our time together. I recognize that we weren't able to get to everyone's questions here that you've submitted in the chat room. So please stick around, leave your details with us so that we can reach out to you. There's a survey at the end of this webinar that you can fill out, and then the Oriole Resource team will be able to and happy to follow up with you directly. If you would like more information, remember that our presentation can be downloaded in the handouts tab right here in the room. And of course, you can visit the team's website at www.orioleresources.com. Now, Tim, I'd like to hand it back to you for the final word.
Thanks very much, Jane, for hosting us again. Excellent job from Six. And yeah, just thanks everybody for dialing in. This is available. It will be available as a recording, so you can go back and rewatch it if there's anything that sticks in your mind. Sign up, subscribe on our website for our news releases, and there is also an info, a way to send questions through to the management team through the website, info@Oriole. So please use those. We'll answer whatever we can, and I hope. Best wishes for the holiday season, and let's all hope that 2021 is an improvement on 2020.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time. Bye now.
Thank you.